Committee on the Judiciary, Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties will come to order. Without objection, the chair is authorized to declare a recess of the subcommittee at any time. I welcome everyone to today's hearing on discrimination and the civil rights of the Muslim, Arab, and South Asian American communities. Before we continue, I'd like to remind members we have established an email address and distribution list dedicated to circulating exhibits or other written materials, motions, or other written matters that members might want to offer as part of our hearing today. If you'd like to submit those materials, please send them to the email address that we previously shared with you, and we will have them distributed. Finally, I'd ask all members and witnesses, both those in person and those appearing remotely, to mute your microphones when you're not speaking. This will help prevent feedback, other technical issues, and possible embarrassments. You may mute yourself anytime you seek recognition. I'll now recognize myself for an opening statement. To my knowledge, today's hearing is the first congressional hearing exclusively focused on the pervasive discrimination facing the Muslim, Arab, and South Asian American communities. It is the first time since 1986 the House Judiciary Committee has had a hearing focused on any component of that community. We did have a hearing earlier this year on Asian hate, and we felt it was very effective. We've had hearings on the ERA, on reparations, other first-time hearings. So the committee's been very active in breaking new ground. The diversity of the Muslim, Arab, and South Asian American communities reflects our history as a nation of immigrants. It includes Americans who have come here from every part of the world. That includes Americans of many faiths, besides Muslims, Christians. They didn't start here either. Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, and Jewish folk. The history of this community is one that also parallels the experience of many traditionally marginalized communities and is deeply rooted in our history. While they are promised individual liberty and guaranteed the opportunity for a better life, they are subjected oftentimes to discrimination and stigmatization, both at the hands of sometimes their own government and some number of their own fellow Americans. We've seen what African Americans experienced in this country through Jim Crow years. It's still going on, but there was much discrimination sanctioned by the government with Jim Crow laws. But the history of this community is also of resilience. Their stories are of those families and individuals who have struggled for freedom, safety, economic opportunity, or the right to worship, or all the above, according to the dictates of their own conscience. In that sense, the diverse elements of the Muslim, Arab, and South Asian American communities share in common what Americans all share, the common fundamental belief that if you work hard, contribute to your community, respect the rights of others as you wish your own rights to be respected, and place your faith in our Constitution and democracy, you belong here. Too often, people are discriminated against because of acts of other people, and they prejudge people. And that's happened with all minorities that have come to this country. Yet even though they live in accordance, immigrants in this country, with the fundamental beliefs of our society, society often stigmatizes immigrants, Muslim, Arab, and South Asian American communities who are the subject of this hearing have been subjected to those prejudices and discriminations as well. Somehow they're not American. Well, I'm not sure who is American, except for Geronimo and other Native American Indians. We've seen this stigma reflected in individual acts of discrimination and hate. We see it in the continued workplace discrimination against those who wear religious headgear or facial hair as a sign of their faith. We've also seen it reflected in the current rise of nativism and white supremacy as individuals or places of worship associated with these communities are increasingly the targets of vandalism and violence. These acts of violence, hate, and discrimination are an affront to our shared values and governing principles, and they have no place in our society. In the previous administration, we had a Muslim ban. The first Muslim ban was struck down by the courts as unconstitutional, and it played on prejudices in our community for the benefit of the politicians who proposed it. A second refined Muslim ban was eventually approved by the Supreme Court, but after much harm was done. All of this should be concerning to all Americans because those flawed policies are not only discriminatory, but they also do not make us safer. I hope that we reckon with and reflect on this history today and come together to ensure this discrimination and stigmatization of Muslim, Arab, and South Asian American communities comes to an end. In Memphis, we have a Ramadan dinner, annual dinner with people of all faiths come together. And all they do is get together and talk about commonality of interest and peace and harmony and good deeds and good things. They talk so long that you get really, really hungry. But it's a beautiful experience as everybody comes together and shows that American values are not in any one particular race or religion, but all of us. So I thank our witnesses for appearing here today. I particularly would like to welcome our colleagues, Representatives Carson, Chu, Jayapal, and Omar, and look forward to their testimony and that of all the other witnesses. I will have to be leaving a bit early because I have a hearing of the Helsinki Commission with concerns with Ukraine. At that time, Ms. Ross will take over as the subcommittee vice chair. She'll take the gavel. I'd like to recognize the ranking member of the subcommittee, the gentleman from Louisiana, my friend, Mr. Johnson, for his opening statement.